Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. First of all, a big thank you to everybody who subscribed recently. We did make 250 subscribers, so I was really pleased about that. So thank you for your support. This next video is going to be about the Key Stage 1 SATs. These are the SATs that they do during year 2, when the children are year 2 in primary school. It's part of a series of videos that I'm currently doing on the assessments that are going to be taking place again 2022 in primary schools. I've done a phonics one about the phonics screening check. That's on the channel already. This is going to be about the Key Stage 1 SATs, and then following this there'll be one about the Key Stage 2 SATs that take place in year 6. Hopefully you find some value in this video. Hopefully you find it useful and the information useful to help and support your children. But yeah, once again, thanks for all your support. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and like this video for more videos about primary education. Thanks a lot. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel, and in this video, like I said, I'm going to talk about the Key Stage 1 assessments that take place in year 2 for the year 2 children. They're part of the National Curriculum Assessment Programme, and since 2019, due to COVID, these assessments have not been taking place, but this year, 2022, they will be happening. Okay, children take Key Stage 1 assessment papers in mainly 2 core subjects, English and Maths. And they're broken down into 3 separate tests: reading, spelling, punctuation and grammar, and then maths, including arithmetic. Science, speaking, listening, computing, they're not assessed formally. Okay, so it's mainly those English and maths core subjects. They take place during the month of May, but unlike the year 6 SATs, which have to happen in a particular week, the schools can decide when they want to do these with the children based on their own calendars. But they have to be done in that month of May and before half term. Okay, so that is after half term, before the end of the next half term. So it's going to be during May at some point, but you can ask your class teacher, the teacher of your children, when they're thinking about having them. But it will be at some point during the month of May. Okay, during these assessments, the teachers will get the children to sit certain tests. And from these tests, the children will get a mark, but it's not just based on these tests that the teachers make their final judgment. The final judgment actually remains with the teachers in year 2. Okay, so the tests gives them an idea of where the child is, but because the children are young and small children have bad days and good days, if they perform particularly badly on the day of the test, okay, the teacher can decide, well, that's not what the child is really like, and I actually feel like I've got enough evidence to assess them here. So it does give the teacher an idea of where they are, but it's not a final judgment like in year 6 where the test mark gives the assessment level. Okay, the teacher will decide if your child is working towards the national expected level of attainment in year 2, if they're working in line with it, if they're expected, which is where they should be, or if they're exceeding, if they're above that level of attainment. And usually exceeding can also be called greater depth. So that's just something to keep in mind. That's where your child will be assessed at the end of year 2, all right, in one of those different categories. So the tests are reading, okay, which is assessing the children's ability to read quickly and with understanding. Okay, paper 1 consists of a selection of text totaling between 400 and 700 words with questions in between. Paper 2 is the slightly harder one because they have a booklet to read and then a separate answer booklet where they will answer the questions. Okay, each paper is worth 50% of the marks, and should take around 30 minutes. So each paper is 30 minutes long, and each paper is worth 50%. So they will add up the scores from both and then give your child. They'll be able to see from those scores whether your child met the expected threshold. Okay, so let's just have a quick look at what these papers look like, because I know that it's just interesting to see what they will look like when their children actually sit them. So the first reading paper is the easier of the 2, and the reason is because they've been given a section of the story to read, and then the questions are directly underneath, which really helps the children because they scan this section of the text and then use this section of the text to answer the question. What is the name of the boy who lived on the farm? When Bryn heard that his little cousin Claire was coming to visit, he was very excited. So the name here is Bryn, and they can very easily take that answer and write it down for that mark there. The questions also come in a variety of different formats. Things like tick one, okay, so they have to tick the box. How do you think the cousin is feeling about? How did he feel about his cousin visiting? Worried, happy, surprised, angry. You would tick one. And sometimes the little children do have an issue because they tick more than one box, okay, and get the answer wrong for that reason. So just bear that in mind if you're doing any of these with your children at home. So yeah, you can see there's another bit of text and then some more answers, another bit of text and more answers, and that's the way that paper 1 sort of works. Paper 2, on the other hand, is a booklet similar to the Year 6 SATs, except they've only got 2 texts to read. Okay, these 2 here, and then based on those texts, okay, they would read the whole of this booklet, and you would normally say to children, right, you've had 20 minutes, 15 minutes on there, you need to move on to your answer booklet now, okay, or you should be reading and answering at the same time if you can. All right, so there's the answer booklet. It's just questions. Okay, so paper 2 is slightly different. They've got 2 texts to read, and then they have some questions to answer on those texts. And you can see it says questions 10 to 18 are about Dora the Storer. So they would know that all of those questions are about this text here, Dora the Storer, and would go to that text, Dora the Storer, to answer those questions. Now, it's not something it won't be something completely alien to them, because the teachers hopefully will be going through a couple of these and possibly have done a practice paper with the children, so they are aware of what they're going to be asked to do. So they're the 2 reading papers. As I said, the paper 1 is just slightly easier because of the way the information is given, but also you've seen sort of the variety of different question styles. So I've kind of talked about those things. Yeah, different types of questions on the papers. Okay, here you can see another example. I've got that whole bit of text to read, and then it says questions 1 to 8 are about the blackbird and his wife, so they use that text to answer the questions. Also, just one other thing to think about is the text can be fiction or non-fiction. So it could be a story, okay, it could be a letter, diary, something made up, fiction, or it could be a non-fiction text about real facts and information. So if you are reading with your child at home, you should be exposing them to both of those kinds of genres. Okay, the other tests. So we've got the spelling, grammar, and punctuation test. Okay, and I'm going to just show you a couple of examples of these as well, so you can see what these look like. As I think it's important to know. By the way, these can all be found on the website, on the internet. You just search for Key Stage 1 SATs and you should be able to find them. So the spelling test, okay, you've got a spelling and a grammar test. The spelling test looks like this. We always something the rabbits before school. They will be given a word here that they have to write down and spell. So we always feed the rabbits before school. The display is on the board, okay. And the word that's missing here is the one that they would have to write in. And you can see they've got a total of 20 spellings to complete, which is 20 marks in total. So that's the spelling test. And the grammar test looks like this. And it's based on different grammar rules that we'll have learned during Year 2. Now, bear in mind, the schools don't have to get the children to sit the grammar test. They do have to get them to sit the reading and the maths, but not the grammar. All right, it's optional in schools. They don't have to get them to do it. But teachers like to do it just so they can use it as an assessment tool and work out where the children are, and more importantly, what gaps they have and what to teach them next. But the grammar questions look like this. Okay, there's all kinds of different questions. Draw lines to join 2 words that can become 1 word. Whiteboard, okay, raincoat, toothpaste, spaceship. They'd have to join those up to get that mark. Other ones are about sentence type. So which sentence is a question? I finished my puzzle. Find my new puzzle. Where is my puzzle? What a tricky puzzle this is. So they'd have to tick the one that should have a question mark at the end. So there you can see, and in total on the grammar paper, there are 19 questions. Okay, end of test at 19 questions. This is the 2019 papers, the last one that they did before COVID. Okay, so that's what the grammar test looks like. Again, you can find it on the internet. Just search up, and you might want to get your children to have a go at these two things, just to see where they're at with their spelling and grammar. Okay, so there's your grammar, and next we have just some examples of the spelling test, the grammar test, which I've gone through. Different types of questions which I've gone through. Finally, the maths papers. So they do two maths papers. Okay, one is an arithmetic paper, which is they find slightly easier. Okay, because the questions are fairly straightforward and easy to answer, as long as they've learnt the ways to answer them in school. And paper two is a reasoning paper where they're doing more problem solving, having to read questions and go through them. Paper one is worth 25 marks and paper two is worth 35 marks. And then the teachers will combine those scores to see if the children have passed overall. They'll not be able to use things like calculators or number lines during the test, okay, but they can draw a number line in their book if that's a way that they've been using to solve problems. During the tests, they get more difficult. So at the beginning of the arithmetic paper, the questions are a bit easy, and they get gradually more difficult towards the end. And not all children will be expected to access some of the more difficult questions later in the paper. So they don't have to get all the marks correct to be able to pass, okay? Similar to the Year 6 SATs. It's a combined score of both of them. So if they score well in the arithmetic paper, they might only need about 10 to 12 marks on that second paper to pass overall. But there, the papers get more and more difficult as you go along. Now, one important thing to note here, on the channel, I've got two videos, a walkthrough of the Key Stage 1 arithmetic paper, which I will leave a link in the at the end of this video, and a walkthrough of the reasoning paper. So you can see exactly the types of questions that are in there, and also I go through how to answer each one. So have a look out for that on the channel. Okay. Here are the types of questions the arithmetic test would have. Okay, so basic number sentences with a box for them to write the answer. Takes 20 minutes, 25 marks. More questions for the arithmetic. Reasoning is more like this. Use a ruler to measure the length of the car. All kinds of different types of questions. Numbers in the wrong bag, even and odd numbers, so getting them to work out what the even and odd numbers are. So they can come in a lot of different types of formats with the reasoning paper, which is why the children find it more difficult. Here you've got a word problem. Okay, Amy plants 4 rows of carrots. There are 3 carrots in each row. A rabbit eats 2 of the carrots. So it's 2 steps. 4 times 3 is 12 minus 2. But if they're not sure how to do that kind of question, if they've not done a question like that before, they would struggle. So just bear that in mind when you're trying to help your child. Give them these types of questions to have a go at. Okay, so how to help your child. First, with the reading, it's just read. Make sure your children's reading every evening. It doesn't have to be a long time, but a small amount of time and often, like every evening, really helps their fluency, helps them to read quickly. And also ask them some questions as well. Okay, ask them some questions about what they've read. Do they know who the characters are? Can they tell you about what happened in the story? Do they know the order of the story? Can they tell you why characters felt certain ways? And not just stories. Look at non-fiction texts as well, you know. That's what they're going to be assessed on in their SATs. For the writing, there isn't actually a writing test with the Key Stage 1 SATs. It's done slightly differently. With the maths, make sure they know their times tables. In Year 2, they need to know 2s, 5s, 10s, and possibly 3s as well. Okay, but definitely the 2, 5s, and 10s. Make sure you understand the methods of that they teach in school, so you can practice these at home with your child. If you want, have a look on our channel, because we've got some methods on there as well of how to solve simple number sentence questions. Don't just focus on numbers either. Look at shapes, 2D, 3D shapes. Can they identify them around the house? Things like that. Can they measure things with you while you're cooking at home and baking? Okay, all sort of real life maths to help them remember what they've learned in school. And yeah, just make sure that you encourage your child. Make sure you praise them. Okay, make sure that it's not too intensive. Remember, they're only young, and not to put too much pressure on them. Okay, there are revision books out there. CGP is a great website to look at. and there are practice papers that you can buy online as well. So check that out, CGP. Okay, you can get workbooks and past papers on there. Okay, so just to conclude then, it's not the be all and end all. All right, they're only 6 and 7, these children, and young children always struggle with this kind of thing and concentration. So bear that in mind. Don't put too much pressure on them. Remember, it's a teacher assessment. It's not just based on what they do in their SATs in Key Stage 1. So speak to the teacher as well and ask if there's any ways in which you can help them. But yeah, don't put too much pressure on them, and just do a little bit of work here and there, little and often with the reading, and try and practice the maths as well, and make sure you keep communicating with the teacher so you're teaching the same things that they are. Don't panic, okay? Don't put too much pressure on your child, because that can obviously work the other way, and during the test they'll just panic and get upset and won't want to do it. So don't put too much pressure on them when they're only young. Okay, I hope you found that helpful. Like I say, check out these videos that you can see now on the screen, the walkthrough of the arithmetic paper and the walkthrough of the paper 2 for the Key Stage 1 maths. And have a look on the channel as well for other videos on different ways to help with the maths methods. If you go right to the beginning of the channel, you'll find those as well. Hope you found that useful. Thanks for watching.